Think about young people today. One thing they need to build, which I think has somehow been lost along the way, is that resilience. Why do I say that? Is there's the sense that as soon as they hit a roadblock in their career, as soon as they hit a challenge,
wave the white flag.
Yeah, they give up.
Thank you for listening to the podcast thus far. 2024, big year ahead. The one favor I would ask, if you're enjoying what you're listening to, is to press the follow and subscribe button on whatever media platform you listen to us, as it helps us grow our network and grow the podcast. So thank you and enjoy the podcast today. Hi listeners, it's me, Conor McHugh, founder of Alchemy Search, and I'm joined today by seasoned international CFO, Ralph Khoury. Interestingly, Ralph is often labelled a crisis financial officer for his unique ability to support growth, transformation, and deliver profitability for corporations that have experienced once-in-a-lifetime financial or economic crisis. Ralph has been an integral part helping navigate the re-emergence of the corporations that he has represented to become leading players in their markets and industries in post-crisis environments. He is currently the Chief Financial Officer of Omnicom, dedicated communications agency for Nissan called Nissan United, spanning a large region from UK all the way to New Zealand, which is often referred to as AMIO region. He is also tasked with the corporate strategy, financial, legal and risk management responsibility for the TBWA network, focused on the strategic market of Saudi Arabia. Ralph, how are you?
I'm good, Connor. Thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, we got there. We got there with the AMI of it. For our listeners, I was a bit concerned how to pronounce that, but we got there in the end.
I mean, my key client, Nissan, has this region which is an aggregation of sub-regions, and it's quite vast. Covers, I think, around 30-odd markets, and it's called AMIO. Africa, Middle East, India, Europe, Oceania.
Perfect. Well, look, firstly, thank you very much for joining, and looking forward to having a good open chat with you today. We're going to cover quite a few points, and hopefully we can give value to our listeners and our network and learn something new, I guess. So look, I just want to kick off and ask more about how your career, how it started, how it's evolved, and what lessons you really learned along the way, just to give our listeners a view of where it all started for you. And obviously you're not a local man here, where you're from originally, and how you've ended up in the seat you're in.
Look, I've been very lucky, to be honest. I was born in Australia. I grew up in Australia. I studied economics. I went to university of an evening. My first job was a trainee accountant. And the beauty of that sort of role was it gave me a full spectrum or full view of all aspects of finance. Every time somebody went on leave of any type, I sort of went in, and did that job. Exactly. So you kind of learnt all of that, and after 4 years, you actually had sort of experience across all the facets of accounting and finance. So when the time came, that once you'd completed your degree, you had 4 years of experience. Basically, you were almost ready to hop into a more senior role. And that's what happened. So I was lucky enough to work. The company was called Alcatel. It was a French company, actually also a global company. Had a huge presence in Australia. Great foundation, really, in terms of the leaders that were there. Had a lot of good mentors. And my career just sort of propelled forward. I held different finance roles in Australia, and then at some stage I was asked to take an international post, and I landed as a CFO in Indonesia, of all places. And I was, at that stage, 27 years old. I would probably say I was
good time to be going.
Youngest CFO in all of Alcatel, I think. And at that stage they were covering more than 120 countries, if I can remember correctly. I landed there. We did 3.5 years. After that, I took a different role, which was in Malaysia. Again, it was a CFO role. They had manufacturing there as well, so I got sort of into that. aspect, because again, I think if you want to develop in finance, you kind of need to understand the way costs are built up and how processes and the manufacturing sort of works. I had that in Australia, but I think it was just another step forward. I also held an Asian region role for the mobile infrastructure division for Alcatel whilst I was in Malaysia. That was another dual role that I kind of.
And with that piece, just again, to be getting a CFO role, senior role at the age of 26, 27, obviously it's not very, very common. So, how did you get in that position? Like, when you look back now, like anything, that might have been the right place, right time, but, what were you doing back when you were in your early 20s, effectively, to be getting yourself in that sort of position?
So I think the key was always, whenever a challenge was thrown at me, I took it.
Yeah.
I never said no. I never wavered. I didn't want to rely on could-haves and should-haves, you know what I mean?
Just say yes, then worry about it.
Exactly.
Worry about that.
So I remember I didn't, the gig as the CFO came about because I actually took a project 3 years earlier to set up an accounting system in Indonesia.
Yeah.
So imagine you get asked to go and set up an accounting system. That's, in a foreign country, you've never been there before.
Different culture, everything.
Exactly. And it's a huge culture shock. And you go there and all of a sudden you've got 2 months to basically do a full reset, set up the accounting system, full set of chart of accounts, train the teams and let it go. And that sort of left a mark. I gave
That's a steep learning curve.
Exactly.
Is the business language, is it English over there, or was it quite...
It was English, but I learnt how to, Indonesian, because there were meetings that were kind of a mix of both. And some of them, for precision, they need to sort of really focus on getting the language right.
Yeah.
So that kind of held me in good stead. And that wasn't the only time. There was a couple of other occasions, even within subsidiaries in Australia. We have the Alcatel submarine cable company. I actually went in there when they needed help, and I became the factory accountant. So the factory accountant meant that when I landed in Malaysia, I had some idea about manufacturing. About how you build your costs, your standard costs, and these sorts of things. These foundations, people look at them today and you think, do I really want to do that? You know what? When you do those sorts of roles, they really give you a leg up. Because you're not just talking without knowing, and you're not guiding others without knowing. And so this is really the trick to it. Take on those challenges. I did it, and it was a lot of hard work, and I wasn't highly paid at the time either.
Well, as I say, 20s is for learning, 30s is for earning. I'm still trying to get that, but I think that's pretty good advice.
So Malaysia was a similar period, 3.5 years. Also, the other thing that these markets exposed me to was working with joint venture partners. There were a lot of substantial joint venture partners who were very powerful. Linked to the government, linked to different aspects of business, and they were always going to be a challenge. And that again held me in good stead. Especially once I landed here in Dubai. But from Malaysia, I moved on to Paris, and I held a global
big culture shock there as well.
Absolutely. And it's a great place. Although I landed there at a time when there was a merger between Alcatel and Lucent Technologies. And the focus was really about restructuring, was about offshoring, was about
difficult
synergies, and honestly, it was no fun. It was no fun. They were obviously living in Paris, enjoying a certain lifestyle was nice, but the actual work itself was quite tough. Was challenging, because imagine bringing together an American and a French company and trying to get this to work. I'm not sure there are too many industries where that has sort of worked. So in the end, honestly, I 2 years into it, I got a call from a headhunter like yourself. Wasn't you?
One of those bad guys. I wish it was me.
Got a call from a headhunter, said to me, look, would you be open to take a role in the Middle East, in Dubai? I said, well, Dubai, I've never been there.
What was your perspective? What year are we in now?
Look, this was 2008. It was the first part of 2000. It was about March, April. And I said to myself, look, might be a good thing. And at that stage, I was looking. I had an opportunity to go back to Singapore because that was something I was looking to, and I had an offer to go to Fiji.
Okay, Jesus.
And that's probably
ticking off all these countries. No, that'll be another culture shock.
So I said, and my wife was kind of keen on Fiji.
Yeah, but
very isolated, difficult to get in and out of that place.
Yeah.
But the idea of working there was
coconuts on the beach and all that.
Perhaps, yeah. So in any case, what we did was we accepted to come and pay a visit.
Yeah.
We came in. I was blown away.
Good. Yeah.
Honestly, I was blown away. I stayed at the Palace Hotel.
Yeah.
I met the management or the leadership team. I met the owner, the chairman of the company.
Yeah.
Lovely people. We had 3 days of meetings. I mean, of interviews. Individual interviews, a panel interview. And to be honest, I walked away thinking this is something I want to do. And we kind of came to terms, and
done.
It's been an amazing experience working with TBWA Rad and Ramsey and Reda. They've been amazing leaders, and I've been very lucky.
Yes, so 16 years then, is it?
It's been 16 years. Wonderful, 16 years. So I've had opportunities to help them grow the business across the region, into different markets. We introduced new brands into the region. We've set up joint ventures in the region. We've restructured ventures. I'm happy to have really left a good mark on their business. Companies that go through growth, go through this really steep learning curve, and if they don't have strong foundations, in terms of managing their financials, they can really go off the rails. And the beauty is, TBWA Rad is really in a great place. I'm so happy to have been part of their journey, and I'm still part of it, to be honest. It's
exactly.
That I'm, and again, Saudi Arabia. Everyone's seeing Saudi Arabia now as the next big thing, and the growth there is phenomenal. And again, we've been lucky to have already secured a number of
good contracts
with key clients there, and we're looking at innovative ways, let's say, of
creative
of being present there. Because I think the market there is vast. It's a huge country, and there are tons of opportunities. So we're looking obviously for different ways of addressing that, and exciting times ahead.
Good.
Definitely.
And for you then, obviously 15, 16 years give or take in the region, how has it changed now, since you came here, all those years back to now, even from a finance professional, so maybe he's in Australia now or wherever in the world, because obviously we're inundated with people trying to relocate to the region. What's your advice, or what have you learned along the way, and what could you say to someone who's sort of on the fence but potentially coming here? What should they be thinking about?
Look, I think do it. I would always, if you want to do it, if you want an international career, the Middle East, Dubai, Saudi is a good place to start. It was a little bit perceived as a hardship post if you go back some time.
Yeah, of course.
But honestly, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. You got to do hard work though.
Yeah,
you got to work hard.
Yeah.
There's no easy ride. Don't think you're going to come here and cut corners and these sorts of things. I think this is the wrong way of thinking. I think if you're young and you're hungry and you want experience and you want to be able to fast track your career, it is a good place to learn. You will learn quickly. Yeah. The market is very dynamic.
Yeah.
You'll plan out your day, but the day will never end up the way you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, always one phone call to change your day.
Exactly, and you've got to move quickly. And again, don't forget the reason why you're here is because you're an expert. You're an expert in your field. You should be a subject matter expert.
Yeah.
So demonstrate your expertise.
Yeah.
Show your value.
And where do you see, let's just say I'm in Australia, wherever it is, and I know I want to come to Dubai in 18 months, 2 years.
Yeah.
I've got a 2-year window, maybe I'm expecting a child or whatever it is, but let's just say 2 years I'm coming here. what could somebody be doing, do you think? Like, what would you think, as a CFO for like an up-and-coming finance manager, finance controller, what sort of skills do you think is going to make people stand out these days in the sort of market?
The skills, definitely communication skills. They need to be able to storytell.
Yeah.
When I say storytell, it's really to talk the reasoning behind the numbers. I always talk about, there's one guy that I know, I think if he sees this, he'll know who I'm talking about him, who makes the leasing standard, the accounting leasing standard sound sexy, sound you know what I mean? And, it's just, he has that ability
tell the story
to explain why you need the leasing standard, how it works, and all this sort of thing. So you need to be able to do that, because ultimately, if you're just reading off numbers, this is of no value.
I think that's the point when, if you want to get to that next level, because at the end of the day, when someone gets to controllership level, mid-level, you're going to get the same number at the bottom. So as you said, it's being able to tell the story, because that's just going to, in those subjective conversations with management, be it the board or, your boss, it is getting that skill set in. So even on that, I know it mentioned from your side being a mentor, which we'll discuss later on, but, what advice would you be, if I'm an accountant and, I'm a mid-level accountant, I want to get that next stage, but I'm not as confident as maybe I should be at telling those stories. Like, what would you be saying, just to practice or?
Yeah, look, honestly, I would definitely practice. Watch people who do it well, and take elements of how they do it and apply it to yourself.
Yeah.
Because you want to be authentic, right? You don't want to be copying someone else.
Yeah.
Right. But I think there are styles out there which resonate. Pick a style that resonates with you and practice.
Yeah.
Practice in front of your wife.
Yeah.
In front of your friends, in front of your kids.
Yeah.
And critique yourself.
Yeah.
And keep working at it. And then if you do get an opportunity to present in the office, take it up.
Yeah.
But stand up and present and be confident about it. Because at the end of the day, if you're the head of finance or the controller or the finance director, there should be no one else in the room that knows the numbers better than you.
Yeah, exactly.
You got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So you just got to tell that story. Yeah. So how well do you know the business?
If you're not lying, then you don't have to think, you're just reading.
How well do you know the business? Do you know the business well enough to rattle off why, your sales have dropped, or your working capital's gone up, or your cash position is X, Y, or Z? It's as simple as that. You should be the person that tells the story. And then you should be able to also, at the same time as telling the story, explain what can be done to fix the problem.
Solutions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not just, again, telling the story of where we got to. The history is what it is. You can't change the history.
Yeah.
But you can certainly fix things in the future. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What's the action plan?
Yeah. Okay. So as I said, it's telling the story and I guess getting a viable solution across.
Exactly. When I say tell the story, you've got to use the narrative and the jargon that business leaders are used to. So don't talk debits and credits.
Yeah.
All the
sexy stuff.
Lose them. You're going to lose them.
Yeah.
If you want to talk, you talk market share.
Yeah.
Turnover. Profitability. Talk key business metrics that everybody sort of understands.
Okay, yeah.
If you start talking, debits and credits and balance sheet analysis,
this provision, that provision,
you're going to lose people.
Yeah.
You're going to lose people. So it is hard to do, but honestly, once you get a hang of it, it just comes naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. And one point I've picked up on, around your bio is being referred to as a chief crisis officer. So tell us about that. I can read between the lines a little bit, but quite keen to understand how this has come about.
Yeah. So this that's come about because Richard McBride, who runs CFO magazine in Australia, did an expose on my career, and he came up with this headline introducing me as the chief crisis officer, as a pun on words, CFO. And basically, it's due to the fact that if I go back through my career, I've witnessed and been part of and seen come and go, let's say, so many different crises. And again, if you go back to how you introduced me, I mean, I've been involved in helping companies get through crises and come out in a much stronger position. If I want to go back a little bit through the times, you've got, the dot-com crisis. This was probably the first one where all these companies started to associate themselves with the internet, raise funds, and then everything kind of went belly up. When I landed in Malaysia, SARS broke out. Can you imagine? So SARS broke out and everything was kind of shut down, and the business was affected, the markets were affected. And again, it was about a rebuilding phase there. Even if I go back to when I was in Indonesia, I went there because of the Asian financial crisis, and that really shut down all of Southeast Asia. From a business standpoint, they went through a huge crisis. Currencies were devalued. The market was in a very difficult situation. Clients were suffering. We were owed a stack of money. A lot of restructuring was needed to bring the company back to a position where it could grow profitably. Then if I carry on landing here in Dubai, pretty much within the following 12 months, we had the global financial crisis and the real estate meltdown that happened here. So there was also a scenario where you had a crisis, and we needed to do the right thing in terms of activating what I call financial crisis management aspects of the business in order to rectify the situation. More recently, we've seen COVID. Okay, and COVID affected all companies, all markets. Didn't respect boundaries. Didn't respect calendar years. It didn't stop at December 31. It just
month end.
Exactly. So that's what I've seen. And when I talk about crises, when you look at financial management during these times, they do require a lot of precision. It's a different type of financial management, let's say. And I've spoken about these at length in different forums, and when I've been speaking with other finance leaders. And really, it's when you have a crisis, you can't control many aspects of the business. You can't control when the clients are going to come back. You can't control when the market is going to go. You couldn't know when COVID was going to stop. So really, you needed to really focus on the things that you could control.
Controllables,
Okay. And what are they? Ultimately, these are things like your cash flow, building that cash conscious organization, that cash first culture, let's say. That's something you could control, and making sure you have your collections coming in and the right focus on that. Cost management. Obviously, that's another thing you can manage. And again, by looking at your cost structure and saying, okay, what are your legal obligations? Okay, you can't do much about those. Contractual, well, maybe you can have a conversation with your landlord or whatever. But then there's discretionary expenses, and those certainly you can put the brakes on. Typically things like training and recruitment costs, stuff like that. So and then the third thing, if I may, is really providing early warning signals to leadership and boards about where the business is at. Is it turning? Is it not turning? What are the early warning signals? What are you looking towards? And making sure there are no surprises, because nobody likes surprise. Neither good nor bad.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of a little bit of an outline of my approach across all those crises.
And just to dig into that a bit more, because like anything, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. But, from being pretty experienced, because I imagine, obviously, the region we live in, things change every day, be it personally or professionally, where, you mentioned your plan there, cash flow. What is your train and thought? Like, if you go back, you come into the office Monday morning and you get hit with something really bad, what do you do? Do you let it sit for a little bit, or do you call the leadership straight away, or do you try and just get it fixed yourself? Or what's your sort of train of thought when something that catches you off guard comes in?
Look, it's always good to give a heads up that this has come in. And then you basically alert everyone to the fact that something has happened. And then it's about devising a plan. And that plan could be something that you'd need to work out with someone else, or it could be something that you need to decide on your own and make clear recommendations. One of the things that I sort of instituted a few different times was a concept of a war room.
Okay.
So when you have a crisis, the best way to address a crisis is to have a war room.
Okay.
And the war room means everybody meets every morning at a certain time.
Yeah.
And the focus of the day is dealt with. So everyone knows what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Right? And if you think about COVID, that was very important because everybody was sitting at home. Nobody knew what the other was doing. And it was a way to mesh everybody together and have everybody focused and not waste resource time on things that were not important. You know, so that certainly comes into it.
Yeah. And then for you, again, the big thing I would say, what I've learned from being in this region is that it is so multicultural.
Yeah.
And the big thing, any candidate or any professional coming into the region, wherever they're from in the world, you know, they're probably going to walk into a room which maybe they're not used to walking into. So how have you went about that? Because I imagine in the position you're in, and obviously how you've been there for so many years, you know, you've had to integrate with so many different people, nationalities. What's your advice to someone who's maybe coming into the region, you know, to be aware of, or you know, things they could be doing or getting the confidence up? But I guess, how have you managed all that?
Look, it's tricky. It's not easy. But I think you've got to look at different nationalities and the communication to them is going to be a little bit different. Yeah. Right. And that's a little bit being aware of cultures and cultural aspects and these sorts of things. So there's not one fit.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So some people need to be, you know, taken away for a coffee and a hug and whatever. Others need a more formal approach. Others like to take the ball and run with it, and they like to be given the opportunity to demonstrate that they can do A, B, and C. Others want constant guidance. Yeah. So you need to be ready to
try on a lot of different hats.
Exactly. And then you also discover that you got to, when you're building teams, you got to mesh the right people together. Yeah. And those people also need to have, you know, the right mindset, the right principles, the right way they carry themselves. And it's good to have different types of people. You know, people that maybe a little bit think outside the box. You know, but ultimately the skill sets, you know, and if I think about different roles that I've filled over the years, I've always attempted to get someone in who is better. Yeah, of course. Who is better, who is stronger.
I think that's one thing I've noticed here, where a lot of companies, hiring managers don't want that. Yeah. Because
it's bizarre.
They actually think that if they get someone better, that they'll be shown the gate down the line.
You know what? I've always said, I used to tell one guy, you know, my dream is to be on the beach at 4 p.m. If I can get to the beach at 4 p.m., I've done my job right. Yeah. Because honestly, it's having the right people, having strong people, is fundamental. The organisation should be able to function regardless of who's there.
Yeah, you're not in the room.
It's like a football team. Yeah. The ones with the best systems are the ones that succeed, not just once.
Yeah, it's not individuals.
Exactly. So people come and go. It's the next man up. Yeah. The next man up knows his job, can deliver better than what the other guy did, you know, and take it forward even further.
And for you then, again, sort of zoning on this piece now of the conversation around hiring. Yeah. So I imagine you've interviewed, I don't know how many people in your lifetime, but a fair few, I would say. So what have you seen that's really, you know, stood out for you, or for job seekers? Of course, every interviewer is going to have a different agenda with how they interview, but what for you has really stood out with certain candidates, or things, you know, which you see as a really good way of interviewing?
Yeah. Look, I kind of know within the first 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
To be honest. Yeah. Maybe 5 minutes whether or not this is going to work out.
And is that based on cultural fit then, skills? Or?
Yeah. No. I mean, I mean, is the person really being genuine? Right. And the conversation has to be a genuine one. If if it's all about cliches, if it's all about, you know, descriptive, you know, job descriptions, then that's just not what I'm looking for. I'm really looking to understand what makes this person tick.
You know? And do you think as well, because obviously when we get candidates, we actually try to tell the candidate to really push the interviewer as well.
Yeah.
So for someone who has been on the other side, do you enjoy when there is a bit of, if the candidate says to you, well, why should not why should I join in an arrogant way, but I'm interviewing in multiple roles. What is in this for me down the line? Or, do you think that's a good way to go about, or how do you see it?
They should do that, definitely.
Yeah.
But you need to balance that.
Of course, yeah.
Because I think they can come across as being arrogant.
Bullish or arrogant.
Bullish. Yeah. There's a nice way to do it. You can say, look, I'm actually, very interested in a long career. What's my career progression going to be like? And that's just...
So it's fair, because I think the thing is, a lot of candidates maybe think it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
It's very much, and I think unfortunately a lot of candidates go into interviews where maybe they're too nervous, or it's just a lot of yes, and then walk out. They don't make an impression, because what we always say, if we have a candidate calling us and saying, I smashed that interview, they didn't smash the interview. It was more, the decision was made by the interviewer maybe after 2 or 5 minutes. It was just a chat, and then on their way.
Yeah. No, it's funny. You can have a conversation, two different people, you walk out with two different opinions. They might think they smashed it.
Yeah.
The interviewer reckons it's a disaster.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably something in between.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, they have to know their stuff. They have to have researched the company.
Yeah.
They have to know a little bit about the person that's interviewing them.
Yeah, correct.
I think all of that helps.
Yeah.
And I think if they can really bring out what they can bring to the table, in a very authentic way, I think they hold themselves in a very good stead of being considered.
Yeah. And for you guys, look, obviously part of a massive organization. And look, the reality is, for us from recruitment space, we always say companies want to work with big multinationals, global companies, our feedback is, honestly, they have a strong brand. They don't really need the likes of us most of the time. So for candidates, because every candidate wants to work in a big company for the most part, especially the up and coming candidates. If I was sat home in Dublin and I said, I'm coming to Dubai in August, I want to get in, that's exactly the industry I want to be in. Like, how do you guys go about actually getting your best talent without the obvious in-house recruitment piece, but how do you guys get the good guys in?
So obviously, being part of a global company, there's global reach. We can access talent from anywhere. I've hired employees directly from New Zealand. And you don't always have a role at the time you speak to them either, and that's something I personally do for, I go to a lot of events, I meet people all the time, and I'm always thinking, imagine I could have this person in my team. There's no role in my team. But
even on that point, so on events then, have you met people at events? That you're like, that's someone I'd like to hire down
Absolutely. Absolutely. All the time. So, when you want to, develop a strategy, to have that career or to go down that next step, you got to get out there.
Exactly.
You got to make yourself known. Don't just send out a CV.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is the point we always say. I know. Obviously, you spoke last weekend at the ACA event. How many people were present at that event?
500 people were inside, and there were 200 loiterers.
Okay, so 700, give or take 700 people. Again, for my network or anyone, I'm blue in the face pushing people to network, because there's only so much we can do. I wish we could fill every role, but we can't. And Ralph has just confirmed it. If you were out and about, you could have bumped into him last weekend.
Absolutely.
May not have a job for you right now, but get your details. He's very active on LinkedIn. And there you go. It's the proof's in the pudding.
Absolutely. And I had a lot of interesting conversations with people. I bet, and sometimes things happen. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and I gave him a very strong plan on how to go about securing his next role. And he thought he couldn't do that. But an hour into that conversation, he's got a strategy. He knows what he's going to do. And I hope to God he's attending to that today.
Good.
Because I'm banking on that.
Good. And then, on that point, networking events, obviously I came across your profile properly. We've been connected for a while, but, you're constantly out there building your brand, because, we always say personal brand is everything. Have you always been
confident to get up on a stage and, speak in front of, I said 500 people, give or take, last weekend. And, for you, is that just no problem, or is there nerves still, or, how do you navigate about that?
Look, I've always aspired to do it, to be honest. I used to watch people, and if I go back maybe 20 years ago, it was nervous. It was something didn't come naturally, but then I started to watch certain people, and they did it well. Yeah. So again, I spoke about this: take what you like from different people, snippets, and apply it to yourself. Go away and practice, and the first opportunity that comes, jump into it, take it up. And you know what? You may kind of screw it up, but at the end of the day, people are going to be interested. And do it again and keep going. Over the past, say, couple of years, I've accepted a lot of invitations to speak at these things. I've always been active. I'm a CPA Australia member. I've been a CPA Australia member for 30 years. So that organisation and the brand, I've been very close with, and that's given me a lot of opportunities as well to talk. I was the head of the chapter here for many years, so I actually was emceeing a few different events for them as well. So that sort of gave me a little bit of experience.
It's a great thing, and this is what I think a lot of our audience that maybe are on the ground that, I said CPA Australia, so they have events. Maybe there's Australians that are based in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, that actually aren't aware that, these, I'm sure you guys get the word out there, but it just goes back to the point where you need to be out. And, if I was Australian, I'm sure I would have come to those events. Chartered Accountants Ireland, they do events. Pretty much most nationalities, Pakistani, they all have their own chartered accountancies as well. So it's to get to these events, because I'm sure you've met finance, tax professionals at those events, and you've been able to refer them to people, reference them, because that's what job seekers forget here, is that you need to think outside the box. You need to get yourself out there.
And people, I've got a lot of peers that ask me, do you know anyone who is available today who could do X, Y, Z? And if I've met you, if I've seen you, then that is something which.
Well, it comes back to your point, though, as you said, and I'm sure it's the same for the vast majority of people at your level. They make the decision 2 or 5 minutes of that person in front of them, and ultimately, if you get to an event or if you connect with someone senior, if you even for 5 minutes, they'll have their opinion of you. They're not going to tell you that opinion, but they will remember that. And down the line, if they refer you into someone, or they get asked a phone call, either your name's going to come up or not come up. So it's just about confidence, I guess, for a lot of people. You're not a scary guy. Just come up to you at an event or introduce themselves to you. I think that's what a lot of job seekers miss in this part of the world, where they're afraid to ask, and they sort of put it all on a recruiter. Yes, that's our job, but again, we don't get all the jobs.
No, exactly. And again, I spoke about events. Obviously, LinkedIn. Also, if you've got a good profile, put it on LinkedIn. Update it. Have an opinion about things. Share information. Share your ideas. These sorts of things are important today. We go to recruiters. I think generally, if I would look at over the years, we've gone to recruiters like yourself. If there was a niche role, let's say, something which, not obvious. Tax is a good example. Honestly, if we were looking for some sort of tax profile that would fit in. Sometimes new markets where we're not present. Again, that would be.
And I think that's, to your point, is because you go into a new market, you have no network.
Correct.
The reality is you've been here, I said 15, 16 years. For the most part, you don't need us.
Correct.
And that's fine. There's no issues with that, but that's how it's done here. And I think people, if they can connect with senior leaders in the region, get in front of them, don't press them, but, get in front of them and build that relationship, because, for example, this guy, Paul Giles, honestly, I would say Paul knows more people than me in finance. I actually remember one time I messaged him to see if he knew someone for a role, and he's the CFO. I meant to be the recruiter. So again, there is a lot of power in what you have.
Paul's a good friend of mine. It's funny. It's that's what I'm saying. It's about the network.
Exactly. And then, going back then to young professionals,
Yeah.
As I said, when you were 25, 26, you're probably streets ahead of your peer group. But what would you be giving out, putting on your, mentor hat to a mentee? What would you be, if I was coming to you, and I was a terrible accountant when I was one. So if you were trying to turn me around, what advice and mistakes do you think, good mistakes for young people to be making to learn?
Good mistakes. Look, generally, I think about young people today, one thing they need to build, which I think has somehow been lost along the way, is that resilience. Why do I say that? Is there's the sense that as soon as they hit a roadblock in their career, as soon as they hit a challenge,
wave the white flag.
Yeah, they give up. They give up. If I think about it, if I think about my own career, if I did that every time, then I wouldn't have stayed with Alcatel for 18 years, definitely, and within the Omnicom TBWA network now for a similar period. You know what I mean? You need to have that resilience. You need to be able to fight through it. I look at CVs sometimes, and I look at 6 months here, 9 months there, 10 months here. It's like a menu. You go into a restaurant, you're reading this menu, and you think about it, and then, why would I hire this guy? They may be very unlucky.
But a CV doesn't tell you that.
No, exactly. And they may have been in the worst companies in the world, but they cannot have been in the 10 worst companies in the world. So something is not right there. And why would I, as a finance leader, hire someone who is jumping jobs every year? It takes a heck of a lot of time to put in to a young guy in terms of time and effort and training and God knows what.
Of course,
And then discover that the guy doesn't want to hang in there if there's a bit of
bit of turbulence.
Exactly, a bit of turbulence. And it's something that they need to learn to do. Hard work. Working additional hours. I mean, we all did it. I know today everyone's talking about work-life balance, but you'll get to work-life balance.
You'll be on the beach for 4 p.m. with you.
This is my target. If I get there, then I'm in a good place. And I actually want everybody with me.
It's good.
I don't want to be there alone. Exactly. So, that's the sort of thing that they need to kind of learn and get around. The other thing is really, we spoke about communication, storytelling, and then really look at leaders and mentors. Find a mentor. Find a mentor. I mean, a genuine mentor.
Just quite actually, we're just going to come on to this point. So mentoring. What are your thoughts on it?
Look, again, I consider myself very lucky because I had, when I was in my 20s, some really great mentors. Guys that I've looked up to. They were friends. They were mentors. They could give you advice, and it was genuine advice, and you could have a joke and that sort of thing as well. So it wasn't just a formal relationship. I've tried to replicate that. I have personally mentored various finance professionals, even non-finance professionals, to be honest. They don't have to be. But, being there, sharing that input, and seeing them move into the next level and ultimately flourish fills you with pride. It makes me really feel happy. It's something which I've seen very recently, and I'm very happy. Any
good stories for us? Any nice little success stories?
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't want to go into names, but I think they know who they are. I mean, they'd probably be watching this, and some of them, have learnt and have adopted a lot of the principles that I've shared with them, and this is what I like to see when they've adopted your philosophy. And to how to get things done, but not copied it. Again, they have to take it
their own
way. Take it in their own way, because if they try and do that, that doesn't work.
And for you then, again, if someone's listening to this and maybe they're thinking, what have you seen, like the people the mentees, is it a case they're just maybe lacking a bit of confidence, or it's actually just they're confident, but it's just actually how their process isn't correct, what they're doing, or what have you sort of seen in general? Is it people just need a bit of guidance more than anything?
Look, it's a bit of both. Being in certain roles sometimes can be a bit lonely,
of course,
and not sure you can trust. But having that person who you can bounce something off, it could be an opportunity that they're not sure about, or it could be some skill sets that they need to learn. You know, what do I do to get to that next level? And having that, providing that input and encouraging them. If you know,
are these people again?
Yeah,
are they just coming up to you and saying, "Hey, Ralph, I know this isn't your job, but I need help. Can you help me?" Or it'll be different for everyone, of course.
Yeah, no, it's not like, and generally with, I mean, it's people that I've worked with, let's say, positioned in certain ways, admired to be at the same time, because I think they've gone through that hard work and perseverance and these sorts of facets. So yeah, it's no real pattern to it, to be honest.
Exactly.
No real pattern to it.
So for our listeners, any age to get one. It's not a case you need to be 25, you need to get one. It's just any time,
any age. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there are people the same age as me, or that ask for support, advice, input. You need it. You need it. And again, as I said, I've been lucky because I honestly have had some wonderful mentors. And that's, again, being part of a global organization gives you that, you know.
And again, putting it on the other foot then for you, obviously, you know, you've been the mentor, but like, what's been some great advice maybe you've gotten when you were the mentee? You know, what would you think, something that's actually really resonated with you, which you're like, that guy taught me that lady taught me that maybe 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of things, and I spend a lot of time talking about, you know, the role of finance, and then a lot of the forums I've been in, and I think that was instilled in me very early on. What's the role of finance, and the role of finance being a business partner, a strong business partner, and giving your input and advice, as direct as it needs to be given. And that's something which I grew up with. You know what I mean? And it's what I learned. I mean, the Australian way of doing business is very, very direct. And if I think about the CEOs that we had over those years, they were very different CEOs. You know, and that they are very direct in what they ask, and they expect that back direct as well. Answer, you know what I mean? So as a finance guy, you know, you wanted a seat at the table. You wanted the ability to give input, to have something to say, have something positive to say. You know, and follow through on it. And if you say you're going to do X, Y, Z, you go away and you do X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? And that's what that mentoring taught. It was that aspect of business, and you know, that they offered me opportunities as well. I was given a lot of different opportunities to grow within organizations, and they banked on me. They bet.
Well, as you said, I think again from listening to this conversation, I think your experience, you were sort of seen as, you know, a guy that would just get it done. So, you know, when you're in your 20s, management obviously said, just get Ralph to do it, he'll do it. He won't whinge or moan about it. And he'll tell you as it is.
No, exactly. But the thing is, it's funny, these days some people like to hear it, you know, sugar-coated. You know, and it's everyone's about sugarcoating things, which is fine. I mean, there's always a time.
There's a time and place for it.
But sometimes, when you go back to a crisis, these are serious stuff. You know, it's either you do the right thing, you follow a plan, or there are dire consequences.
That is the challenge with this part of the world, because it is a cultural melting pot, and people go about business, as you said, in Australia, it's very direct. Other parts of the world, maybe there's a bit more fluff involved, where they don't like that direct conversation.
Exactly. It's funny. Last week, I read about Red Lobster going into bankruptcy or something like this. And again, it was funny because the headline was that the CFO had gone on holidays and then the company had collapsed. Now,
off the beach.
I'm not sure. If that was a true story, but I mean, or the reason behind it. But this is what's at stake. You know.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Now, probably look, from my side now, we're going on to a few more relaxed questions. You know, so to ease that. So look, that was great. So I guess the question I have for you is, if you had 24 hours left, where would you like to spend that day? Where and how would you want to spend that day?
Where? It's interesting. Probably Bali. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I've always admired and my time there. I used to go there every month,
Down in
every
Kuta.
year. Every year. Not so much Kuta anymore, but
I could see you there in your
we did a bit of Kuta. So probably in Bali. But with 24 hours left, you want to be with loved ones.
Yeah.
You want to be with people who you want to enjoy your time with and cherish. So that's basically your wife, your kids, and a couple of friends.
Yeah.
And basically laugh.
Exactly.
You hit the grave. I mean, that's
don't sweat the small stuff. Enjoy the tiny
laugh, and don't take yourself so seriously.
Exactly.
You know what I mean, laugh, and that's something. Again, maybe it's a bit of the Australian culture. It's a bit of banter. We call it banter,
exactly.
right? I mean, you can joke, you can share a joke, and at the same time you
enjoy.
I
think this is the thing where. People need to forget, like people who are in senior positions, they have a personality.
Yeah.
I think I remember when I was growing up, when I was back in KPMG, I thought all partners in the business must have been old men, very boring. But obviously, it turns out they're quite entertaining people. So people have personalities. You don't just stop losing your personality when you get over 20.
Absolutely. And when I talk about the attributes of CFOs, and I often have that talk when I go to different forums, one of those attributes is having a sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't have a sense of humor, you're going to be a very dull person.
Yeah.
No one's going to be wanting to
especially accountants as well, the stereotypes of accountants.
Exactly. Bean counters. How's that for you? Hated that too.
And next question. So, what is the one quote or line that change your perspective in life?
Maybe not so much a quote, but let's say a philosophy. Philosophy.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I've always said, if you're in finance, and the people that I've worked with, the people that I've mentored, will all know this, right? My philosophy is very simple. As a finance professional or leader, all you have is your integrity.
Yeah.
If you lose your integrity, you lose everything. You cannot no longer work as a finance professional.
Yeah.
You've lost everything. If you're in sales, maybe let's say a used car salesman,
or a recruiter.
Let's just say sales. Let's say that. So in sales, you don't. You're not hired for your integrity. You're kind of hired to sell. If you're good in sales, then you'll be able to.
It's persuasion.
So integrity doesn't really factor into the decision making whether this guy is a good guy or not.
Yeah.
Is he the right guy for the job?
Yeah.
So this is why when I do talk to finance leaders, professionals, for me, integrity is paramount. Yeah. If you lose your integrity,
it's gone.
If you lose your ethical dimension in terms of what you do, you lose everything.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. And that's something, again, for the younger guys to think about is, hey, when you are conducting yourself, if you think something is not right or inappropriate, or whatever, you speak up. Talk about it.
I think that, again, is the thing in this part of the world where sometimes there might be a bit of pressure on finance guys to, and as you're saying, once you're stained, you're stained, I guess, in that sort of situation.
Exactly. So that's for me is
good.
Yeah.
And then to close, so from a young age then, was it always the dream to be an accountant? Or to be a bean counter, as you put it there yourself? Or what was it when you were back on the beaches?
No, I mean, it wasn't the beaches. It was inner Sydney city. Look, to think about it, I actually wanted to be a reporter.
Oh man, okay, storytelling.
Exactly. So, a current, reporting on current affairs. It probably goes due to the fact that my father and my uncle are both journalists.
Okay.
Right. So perhaps that sort of played a role. But I think being a finance guy, you're kind of reporting about what's happening behind the numbers.
Ultimately, as you said, I think the thing I picked up on is that to get ahead, you need to be a financial reporter to non-finance people.
Correct.
I said that's the element of a finance business partner, I guess.
Absolutely. And, being able to have those conversations, being able to impart the message, the key message. What are you trying to get out of that?
Yeah.
And, I always talk about that 30-second speech.
Yeah.
You're in the lift.
Yeah.
What are the 2 points that you want to get across? Because you may only have 30 seconds.
Yeah. No, perfect. Well, look, I guess, Ralph, from our side, you thought this was going to be a 20-minute conversation, and I told you it wasn't. I think we went the full time. So, on behalf of Alchemy and myself, thank you very much for joining us today, and I think it's a very good conversation.
Connor, thank you very much. Happy to be part of it.
Thank you.
Cheers.